have in front of you, thank God it's Sunday, a nifty regionals business plan. This presentation went to Nifty Regional, okay? And I'll tell you a quick story about this presentation because usually we send 3 people to regional, some years 2. It all depends on what we get told, essentially, like how many spots there are available. We don't pick that. We had 3 spots this year, the year that this presentation came from. And all 3 presentations were picked, and thank God it's Sunday did not get picked. And then Nifty called us because they had sent a representative, and they said, hey, we've got 1 more spot available. We're offering another spot to other schools as well. So everybody's getting another spot. And John had been working on this presentation after regionals, still saying, well, it does, or after the business plan competition, saying, I don't care that I didn't get into regionals, I got to make this plan work. And so because he was working it and working it and working it, he ended up earning a spot that he didn't otherwise think he was going to get. So just know, and I didn't even plan to tell you that, I'm just thinking about this now. This, John didn't get picked, he ended up getting picked afterward because he continued to work at it and continued to sort of seize an opportunity that he didn't even know he was there. So, just keep that in mind. If things don't go your way, just keep working. Keep working. There's always something that could happen.
And he really only did his business April, May, and June. 3 months. And he has $780 in the bank, in the business office right now in his account.
Mm-hmm. And because his interest changed, actually because he went with what his interest was originally, which was culinary, he's now doing more culinary stuff, but his candles were inspired, as you can see, by culinary. Okay, so you have a fully fleshed out business plan competition or business plan. So you can use this as a guide. Today you're going to get 2 more nifty regional presentations from past students. In full color. I spared no expense. I did hit auto color though. Full color, so you can see exactly what was on that screen and what the expectation is. So this is going to help you as you're solidifying your business plan. But here's what I want to talk to you today about. And we're skipping quick. Actually, you know what? We're going to skip this, and we're going to skip this, and we're going right to here. We're going right to it. If I asked you, what's your ROI? Hello. If I asked you, what is your ROI? Which is what your judges are going to be looking for. The first question is, what am I asking you? What am I asking you?
Return on investment.
What's your return on investment? There's so much that goes into ROI. And what I want to do today, so get ready. You guys look a little bit down. You're going to have to come a little bit up. You're going to have to stay with me. Because we're going to go through how every single number in this plan all cascades together. All the way to, oh, the girls took the video.
I think they're out of class first.
I do not. How it all leads back to this number. So if I say, what's your ROI? What am I really asking you? What am I actually asking you? And you can use this presentation in front of you. Yeah.
What percentage of your original investment are you making on top of that?
Whew, I didn't understand that. Did anybody understand that? Let me take a step back. What do you need to know? What do I need to know to answer this question?
How much it costs to make a unit?
How much it costs to make a unit? Sure, I do need to know that somewhere. But if I ask you what's your ROI, look in your business plan presentation. What's the formula? What are they telling you? What are the variables? What are the things?
What's your gross profit?
What's that?
What's your gross profit?
What's your gross profit?
What's your profit?
What's your profit? If it's not gross profit, what's that final profit number? What's that final profit at the end? You can think, what's that? Your net profit. If you think about it like this, if you get confused, I like to think about it like this. It's gross that I don't get to keep all the profit that I earn. And at the end of the day, what's left in the net, what I'm carrying out of my butterfly net, is what I got. So net is the last thing. So if I ask you, what's your ROI, I need to know your net profit. And what else do I need to know?
Your expenses.
I do need to know my expenses, but it contained within net profit, I've already taken out my expenses. Because now I know at the end, so at the end, after all my expenses, everything, I know my net profit. I need to know my net profit, and what else do I need to know? There's one other piece of that equation. I'm asking you what your ROI is, and you say, well, to tell me your ROI, I need to know net profit. But I also need to know what? Yeah.
Your investment.
The investment. I need to know the investment. To make this clear, what we're about to do today is we're going to map out from the very highest level, when I ask what is ROI, every little piece of information in the business plan presentation that goes into this end-all be-all question when your judges look at you and say, what's your ROI? Tell me your return. How good is your business at making you money? That's what they're asking. So you guys just nailed it. I need to know my investment and I need to know my net profit. And what I do is I take net profit and I divide it by my investment. That's the formula. You don't have to write it down. It's in your business plan presentation. You're welcome to write it down, but you don't have to. Okay. So now I'm going to ask you, if I ask you, what's your net profit? Think about it. Giselle, I'm going to come up to you and I'm going to say, Giselle, what's your net profit? What am I asking you? What am I really asking you? If I say, what's your net profit?
What's the total money that you actually take home?
What is the amount of money that you take home at
That
the
your
end of the
business
year?
takes home.
Great, that the business takes home. So here's my question. What goes into figuring out net profit? What do I need to know? Someone I haven't heard from. What do I need to know in order to tell you what my net profit is? What are some of the things I need to know? James, you look like you wanted to do it.
Not really, but how much money is going to be taken out first before you take all that money?
What do I call those?
Expenses.
So, what are my total expenses? So before I can answer this question of what's my net profit, I need to tell you what are all the expenses I have in a year. All of them. And we're going to dig into this. But what else do I need to know? Someone I haven't heard from. I know all my expenses, but I also need to know what? Go ahead.
Commission?
That's in my expenses. I know all my expenses. Leah, I'm going to take that as a hand today. That's a hand. You guys better be careful where you move your hands today. That's all I'm going to say. Leah, if I know all my total expenses, Giselle tells me at the end of the day, net profit, what I'm asking you is how much money's left over in the bank. And I'm saying, look, I can tell you all the money that I spent. What else do I need to know? To tell you how much is left over in the bank. I tell you all that I spent. What else do you need to know? How much I
Earn?
say aloud.
How much you earn?
How much I earn.
Sales.
Sales. So this is how much I earned, if we're going to be real precise with words. But I think where you're going with that is, what did you bring in? What's your total sales? All right. So now I know my total sales and I know my total expenses. I subtract my total expenses from my total sales to get net profit. But you wouldn't be able to tell me that. Mookie, I'm coming to you next. No, I'm not. Marilyn, I'm coming to you next. No, maybe I'm coming to Jensley next. I don't know who I'm going to next, so stay on guard. Total sales minus total expenses. How do I figure out my total sales? So I say to you, what were your total sales for the year? Marilyn, how do I figure out my total sales for the year? Talk to me about total sales. What are they?
How much? How much like you sold?
How much I sold. Okay, great. So if I'm going to go with how much I sold, what numbers do I need to know to figure out how much I sold for the year? Mookie, give me one number I need to know. If I say to you, what are your total sales? You say, okay, you want to know how much I sold in dollars. What information, what pieces of information are important to that calculation?
Your units.
Say it loud.
Units.
My what?
Your units.
My units. So I need to know my number of units. So Carla, if I tell you I sold 500 units, does that tell you what my sales in dollars were?
How much you sold your units for?
How much I sold my units for. So my price per unit. Number of units times price per unit gives me total sales. That's it. This is what we call gross revenue. This is what we sometimes just call revenue. This is what we sometimes call sales. Total sales. Okay? Total expenses. I've heard a lot on this. Brian, if I ask you what are your total expenses, what are some of the things that make up total expenses?
Fixed expenses?
Fixed expenses. Love that answer. Couldn't have asked for a better answer. Unless, of course, you gave me the other side. Gabriel, what's the other side of fixed expenses? What's the other sort of expense that we deal with? Variable expenses. Wow. I don't know why everybody's not as excited as I am, because the answers are just flowing. I am just so excited. You all seem so excited, almost as excited as I seem. Variable expenses. So now I ask you, what are your total expenses? And you tell me, well, first I'm going to tell you my variable expenses and my fixed expenses. Am I going to add them up or am I going to subtract them? I'm going to add them up. Thank you. We're going to add these up. But now we got to dig a little deeper. Liam, that hand's been up for a while.
Cost of goods sold.
Where do you want to go?
I want to put the cost of goods sold in it.
So within variable, if I ask you, what are your total variable expenses for the year?
Mm-hmm.
What do you need to do? What information do I need?
The cost of goods sold.
So I need the cost of goods sold.
Yeah.
Yup.
And then literally any other variable expenses.
Okay, what are literally any other variable expenses? Someone help me out. We got two big buckets. So cost of goods sold includes materials. So let's be clear about here. First of all, let's go back to here. Someone tell me what variable expenses are.
Expenses that can change given the demand.
Expenses that change given the demand. A little finer point, you're like right on it. Expenses that change based off of how many you sell. These are direct costs related, and let me do that again. Variable expenses. The expenses that are directly related to making and selling your product. So let's stop for a moment. I'm going to start with Mookie and I'm going around this room and we're going to do this real quick. Give me an example of a variable expense in your world.
Commission.
All right, because there's nobody there. So commission? No. I'm sorry, you're right. A cost of goods sold. A variable expense that is a cost of goods sold, because you all have commission or labor. Give me a cost of goods sold, meaning a material expense.
Cleaning supplies.
Cleaning supplies.
T-shirt.
T-shirt.
Food.
Food. Fabric. You do have some. Yeah. Material expenses. What do you sell?
Oh yeah,
Shirt. So give me, say it so I can hear you.
Shirts, paper,
Bottles, say it so I can hear you. Think about it. You know what your business is. Think about what some of the expenses might be. We've talked, you know, you have an idea. What could be a material expense for your business?
Food?
Bingo.
Okay.
Jensley.
Fabric?
Fabric, are you selling those dresses?
No.
Okay. So what would be, are you making those dresses with fabric? No. So what else could be an expense? What's that?
No.
An app, maintaining your app. We're going to talk more about that because apps are hard. There are very few material expenses because they're all digital. Yeah.
Am I supposed to do something different or like just?
No, it's specific to your business.
Just shirts.
Shirts,
vinyl,
vinyl,
Jacket.
jackets,
paper.
paper.
I don't think I have any material expenses.
You might not have material expenses if you are an app. Okay? Great. Thank you. Within variable expenses, we got cost of goods sold and what was yours? What'd you say first?
Commission.
Commission. That's what make up variable expenses. But here's my question. What are your total variable expenses for the year? How do I figure that out? If I add these two together,
And multiply them by 12.
so I add them together and I multiply them by 12. If you're writing that down, don't. Just think about it. These are my total variable expenses per unit.
Oh, I lied.
If I'm going to ask you what are your total variable expenses for the year, what other really important piece of information do I need to know? I know your total variable expenses per unit.
What unit are you?
What?
What unit are you like trying to figure it out for?
Okay, so somebody I haven't heard from Team Blue is just like really crushing it over there in that corner. Somebody, we got Team Plaid. Come on. What else? Team Gray. If I want to know my total variable expenses for the year, and every time I sell a unit, it costs me $5. What do I need to know?
How many you sold?
How many I sold. The number sold. All right, we're getting there. Fixed expenses. If you want to tell me your yearly fixed expenses, what do I need to know? I say, hey, Andre. If I say, Andre, what are your yearly fixed expenses? What would be some of the information you would need to know in order to answer that? Don't overthink it.
The things I pay every month.
The things you pay every month, which we call what?
Bills.
Bills. What are your bills for the month? What are your monthly fixed expenses? First, I need to know what my monthly fixed expenses are. And then, this is going to be the hardest question of the whole class. Hardest question. And then if I need to figure it out for the year, how many months in a year? 12. Nailed it. So I'm multiplying this by 12 to figure out what my monthly fixed expenses are. Who here took notes? Great.
You drew it up.
Who here would have liked to have known that I had done this all on paper for you so that you didn't have to write it down with your hand? If you can pass that around.
Massive.
What's that?
That's pretty massive.
This is a massive question and answer. Can I still?
You did that.
Honestly, yeah.
Yeah, that's a big paper killer. That's a massive paper killer.
Here it is. This is your master key. You're the first class to ever receive the master key.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
I've made your job a bit easier today. This might have seemed confusing because I went through it fast because I knew you were getting this.
Thank you.
And then on top of this, Whew, this is going to be nice. Here are all the questions that you would be asking yourself. Let's pass that around to the left.
Wow. You really did everything all
Ooh, can I steal one? Okay. It has slide by slide where every number appears. It says what you do with those numbers. If you know this flow chart, this is what we mean when we say, do you know your numbers? If you can know from the top what is your ROI in year one and how every single number in this chart flows up to that question, probably going to go to regionals. I'm just going to say, I mean, if you can do this chart and ask yourself these questions, then you know your numbers, okay? And so to give you time to practice that, here is a business plan that I want you to partner up with somebody. And in it, you will find that the big important numbers have been deleted. But you have all the information that you will need to tell me for Soul, which was a pretty cool business and some products right up there, custom shoes, what Soul's ROI was. So, hello. Why don't you partner up and why don't you walk through with your partner the questions on this list from top to bottom. Oh, and just because I was like in a really nice mood,
Answer key.
I do not have an answer key. You might find that you want to fill, yeah, it was a tough day on the trees. I get it. We really chopped them down today. I'm sorry.
They're all really glossy, which is nice.
Yeah, even better. Glossy with a nice sheen of plastic on top of that
Yeah.
paper. You might find that you need this to store some of your information.
Thank you.
So why don't you partner up, and why don't you start asking yourselves those questions from top to bottom, all knowing that you're trying to answer, what is your ROI? What is Soul's ROI? Great, fantastic. Partner up, the numbers that you needed. So now the next thing is asking me, but ask me a specific question of what you would do next if that's not clear. Okay, so how many units sold? What are your variable costs per unit for this?
Cogs and what?
Help me out.
Labor, right? So what's the labor?
What are your variable
That's the
expenses?
one you were missing. That makes sense now? So what
Oh,
are
I
your
think I know
total
why.
variable costs now?
Because
You
we
just
have
have to add them up.
to use these to find the variable cost. He's freaking educated. One unit.
How do you find your total variable expenses?
So,
So if you track this down, what is your total gross revenue? So total gross revenue.
Military expenses would be
I
that.
can find that on
would be
slide
that
11.
897. I don't think that's valuable though.
By a show of hands,
What's what I show now?
by a show of hands, who here is more confused than they were before? By a show of hands, who here is less confused with financials than they were before? Who told you to say that? That's great. All right. If you are feeling a little less confused, that's wonderful. And here's what I'll say. If you're feeling more confused, see me after class. If you're feeling less confused, what am I going to say?
See me after class.
See me after class, right? We still have work to do no matter, but this is a big deal. So, let's do these together real quick. I'm not going to make you reinvent the wheel, but we are going to make sure that everybody's feeling good on the same page, right? So, what is the question that you are answering for each of these case studies? What was the question?
What's the return on investment?
What is your return on investment? So what you just saw, much easier than what we did here before, is you saw how all those numbers actually interacted. You saw the way that those puzzle pieces fit together. So if I'm asking you what your ROI is, I need to know what my net profit is for the year, and I need to know what my total investment is. So, in the case of, what was the first case? Soul. In the case of Soul, let's figure out what was the total sales, the gross revenue. Well, let's do it like this. ROI, I need to know the net profit, and I need to know the total investment. And then from here, I need to know sales and total expenses. Someone tell me the two critical pieces of information I need to know to figure out my total sales. On that side of the room. Debut.
The total units sold.
And so total units sold, and what is it?
117.
117 and
The price per unit, which is 100.
price per unit 100. So what was the total sales?
11,700.
If I ask you what are your total sales, you need to know two things. How many things did I sell and what did I sell those things for? Somebody tell me, if I ask you total sales, what are the things you need to know?
How many things you sold and how much you sold those things for?
How many things did you sell and what did you sell those things for in terms of price? Here's a big one. Pay attention. Price, the word price in your world as business people appears one place. On this side, total sales. Price, this side, total sales. Price for you is what people buy your product for. A lot of times, and so what I mean by that is, as a business person, price means a different thing. When you're out there in the world being consumers, you always ask, oh, how much is that going to cost me? How much does that cost? How much does that cost? How much does that cost? What you're really asking is, what is the price? But we say, what is the cost? How much does that cost? Oh, what is that? This is the place where we use price. On expenses, on the expense side, that's where the word cost starts to come into play. You'll see what I mean by that as we go along. Okay, total expenses. Fixed expenses and variable. Fixed, variable. Okay, show of hands, who thinks that variable expenses are more complicated to understand than fixed expenses? Show of hands, who struggled more with variable expenses than fixed expenses? Raise your hand high so I can see. I got to get a good understanding. So some people, who here struggle more with fixed expenses? Okay, so fixed expenses seem to be pretty straightforward. Let's start that off. How do I figure out fixed expenses? Someone from this line who I can't see. This line. You can't see me, but I'm talking about this line. This line. This is the line I'm talking about. You'd have to pay it, or you'd have to look at me to know. What do you got? Fixed expenses. How do I figure them out? In the case of Soul. Are you on that line? No.
Dave still got his hand up.
Are you on that line? All right, I got someone on this line. Hi. Sorry for yelling behind you.
The monthly fixed expense by the number of months.
The monthly fixed expense by the number of months. How many months in a year, Andre?
12.
12. What's the monthly fixed expenses?
$51.14.
$51.14, meaning the total fixed expenses were what?
$613.68.
$613.68. Here's a confusing question that I asked a lot of people. And I didn't mean for it to be confusing, but everybody, for the most part, was confused when I asked this. So stay with me. What were your variable expenses for the year? I said, what were your variable expenses for the year? And everybody wanted to take their variable expense per unit and multiply it by how many months there were in the year.
No, how many units you sold in the year, sillies?
This has to do with how many months. Variable has to do with how many units that you sold. What's my cost per unit? Not my price per unit, my cost per unit.
$72.97.
What goes into cost per unit? Someone other than Liam. You had your hand up before. Do you want to? Does the hand still hold or no? What goes into my cost per unit? What are the big items?
It didn't come.
I'm asking you, from this case study, what goes into the cost per unit for sold? Somebody with their plan out who's, yes? 72.87, and what makes that up? 97. And what made that up, Jensley?
Cogs.
So the cost of goods sold, and what were the cost of goods sold?
Wait, hold on. You want to know the materials?
Yeah.
Or, sneaker paint.
No, I don't want to just know the total.
Huh?
What was the total cost of goods sold?
$8.97.
$8.97. There was a red herring in there, so let's make sure we get this. Cost of goods sold were material expenses. Cost of goods sold, 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 material expenses. Did you know that every time I say something, it makes another impression on your mind? Did you know that?
No.
Cost of goods sold, material expenses. Yes.
Material expenses, same thing.
Material expenses and cost of goods sold, they're the same thing. When I say, what are your cost of goods sold? The goods, what's the cost to make the good? The materials that go into it. Then there was labor, what we sometimes call commission. I think that was $60. And then there was like an extra one in there, shipping. Some people have a shipping expense. Do you have a shipping expense if you don't ship anything? No. Has anyone seen the Kmart commercial that they can, about the different stuff that they can ship?
I thought Kmart was going out of business.
Well, so they tried to. You guys should look up after class the Kmart shipping commercial.
Oh, I just shipped my pants.
Wait, you mean I can ship my pants? Yeah, you can ship your pants. Wait a second. I can buy this bed and I can ship it. I can ship my bed? Yeah, you can ship your bed. It's a great commercial, but they're still going out of business. Even for all that good advertising. All right, cost of goods sold, labor. Oh, actually, I heard a comedian. I think, was it Dave Chappelle? Who said it? That the difference between Target and Kmart's business model, do you know what it is? The difference between Target and Kmart. At Target, they just like wipe things down. Just like dust. They just like dust things, right? That's why they're saying that Kmart's going out of business, because they, like, you walk in the store and you're like, Target, Kmart, they sell the same stuff. One just wipes their stuff, they just dust the stuff. That's it. That's the joke. All right. I don't know whose joke that was. Not mine. Cost of goods sold, labor, and shipping. Shipping was $4. Cost per unit, right here. What was the total cost, total variable cost for the year? Someone on that side of the table. Sean, you had your hand. What was the, I'm calling on you. Actually, hi, how are you? I'm coming to you next.
I mean, he's on that side.
I'm coming to you next.
Now he doesn't want to answer, huh?
Somebody, total variable expenses for the year. How do I figure them out? Leah, how do I figure them out?
The total variances for the
Yeah,
You will multiply.
loud.
You multiply your fixed expenses.
Total variable expenses for the year.
The total cost per unit times how many you sold.
Times how many I sold. If I ask you, what are your yearly variable expenses? It doesn't matter how many months there are in a year. Anytime we're talking about variable expenses, it matters how much you sold. Okay? What were they? Jensley, you had us here. What was the total variable expenses for the year?
8,537.
8,537 and what?
49.
49 cents. Does everybody agree with that?
Yeah.
That hold water? Great.
Pretty accurate.
Does that hold water? Is that airtight? Is that good? Okay. How do I get into my net profit? I told Manuel, took me a second because I don't say your name all that often. I'm not calling it all that often.
Those take the total gross and then you take the total variable and fixed and then you minus that. Right?
Say it loud so I can hear you, but I think you're on it.
You take the total gross
So I take the total gross, and what do I do?
minus the
I subtract
the variable,
variable expenses. How much were those?
8,537.
Yep, 49. And then what?
And then you minus 613, 68 cents.
68 cents. And I get what?
2,548 cents.
There's my net profit. There's my net profit. And now the last thing I need to know is what's your ROI? I got my net profit. What's my total investment? Someone I haven't heard from. This is like a layup. I heard from you. Someone I haven't heard from in this round. What's my total investment? And where do I get it? I think I've heard from you. I feel like I've heard from you.
I don't know.
I see someone I haven't heard from who's getting in the game right now.
$904.
Say it so I can hear you.
$904.85.
$904 and what?
85 cents.
85 cents. And what do I do next?
You gotta divide net profit and total investment.
I divide net profit by total investment. And what do I get?
281%.
So I got, what do we have? 285? Who's got 285? Who's got 281? Who's got a different number?
4?
What?
I got 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got 4.0.
So I think you guys are off. Whatever.
Probably.
Whatever. It's like, I don't have the answer. I mean, I'm doing it with you. So 282, 281. But here's what comes out of the calculator when I do this and this is 2.81. 2.81. When we talk about return on investment, we talk about it in terms of a percent.
Oh, so this is
So I go 1, 2. In order to convert this number into a percent, meaning of 100, I move my decimal point over 2 spots, 281%. Who here would like a 281% return on their investment? I will raise my hand for that. If you're not raising your hand, you should probably raise your hand, unless, of course, you want higher, but even better, I'll take 281% return on investment any day. Which means, this is the last thing I'm going to say for class, I'm going to let you out early, because people's brains are going to be hurting by this point. Which means, if I say my return on investment is 281%, somebody tell me what that really means. Who wants to take a shot?
You nearly tripled your investment.
So it means that I nearly tripled my investment. It means I almost got 3 times on my money. What is it? What else does it mean? You round it up to the triple, but you can be very precise. For every dollar that I invested in startup funds, for every dollar,
you made $2.81.
I returned $2.81 in profit. Woo-hoo! That's what that means, people. It's a beautiful thing. Questions for me? I want to tell you who here enjoyed the lesson on Monday about stocks and wants to know more about stocks. If you want to know more about stocks, I forgot to mention. Does anybody know what Rhode Island Equity Partners is?
Yeah.
You know? What is RIEP?
Team Vibe.
That's Providence Equity. We riffed on the name for Providence Equity, and we started Rhode Island Equity Partners here. Does anybody know what Rhode Island Equity Partners is here? I'm going to tell you this real quick. The Entrepreneurship Center got an investment of $2,500 to do a very specific thing. To buy at least one share. What's a share?
Piece of a company.
A piece of ownership of a company. So an ownership of a company. We bought at least one share, in many cases, many more shares, of every single, and I mean every single, publicly traded company in Rhode Island. There's only
I'm in.
12 to 14 of them on any given. There's only 12 of them. Hasbro, CVS, Textron, United Natural Foods, Citizens Bank, nope, not Citizens, Coastway Credit Union, Washington Trust. You've heard some of these names, CVS, Hasbro. We own a piece of every single one of those companies, and a student who's graduating this year manages that fund. If you're not graduating next year and you're looking to get involved in managing some stocks and would want to be one of the youngest owners of every single company in Rhode Island that's publicly traded, talk to me after class. That's Rhode Island Equity Partners. Have a good rest of the day. Yay.